And good evening, ladies and gentlemen, from everywhere. Lovers of God, lovers of the Bible, lovers of history, lovers of truth, lovers of spiritual journey, lovers of Zion, lovers of Jesus, lovers of Moses. All kinds of wonderful people gather every Thursday night at 9:11 p.m. Eastern Time for the Bishop and the Rabbi. We are so glad that you are here. You know the drill. Go ahead and take a moment and sign in. Get us your name and the city where you are watching from. If you're here for the first time, if you're here as a first-time guest, do me a favor and just type, "It's my first time." We'd love to welcome you and have you as a part of tonight's discussion. Tonight is going to be very, very special indeed, and we'll get to that in just a second. But folks are signing in from all over. As you come in, you know the drill, folks. Hit the share button, if you will. That is your one job tonight. Hit the share button, and that is the way that we spread the message of Jerusalem-based Christianity. Jerusalem, what in the world is Jerusalem-based Christianity? Are you going to make us all keep kosher, Stearns? Is that your ultimate goal? No, that is not our ultimate goal, folks. The goal of Jerusalem-based Christianity is that so many of us have faith in Jesus, but we know almost nothing of the faith of Jesus. We don't know the faith of Jesus. We don't know the faith of the Apostle Paul, of the early followers of Yeshua. What were the holidays they kept? What were the scriptures that they read? What was their paradigm and worldview of how they interpreted religious events and historic events around them? We want to know not the Greco-Romanized version of Jesus and Christianity, not an iteration of an iteration of an iteration passed down. We want to get as close as we can to source, to understand the framework, the belief system of Jesus the Jew. We are followers of a Jew named Jesus. We believe he lives in our hearts, and we have access to Hashem, access to Adonai through faith in this Jesus. So we want to know as much as we can about him. And so many of you signing in from all over. It is great. Greet one another, say hello to one another on this very special night of Bishop and the Rabbi. We're heading to Israel, September the 27th. I think there's a couple seats left. We want you to join us for Awake Jerusalem. Great job, the tech team. They got it right up there. Go to awakejerusalem.com and join us. People are asking us, do you have to be vaccinated? Currently, the state of Israel is requiring vaccination, but we'll keep you up to date if that changes. But if you're vaccinated and you want to join us, please do sign up. Also, Torah Tuesdays with Mark Gerson is moving forward at a fantastic pace. We are now in the book of Exodus. Join us. Go to TorahTuesdays.com, and there's no charge for the study. We have well over 100 people from literally around the world studying on Torah Tuesdays, so we want you to join with us. Thank you so much to all of our partners who keep our ministry going. It is only your faithful friendship. Guys, I have to just tell you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I just came back a few days ago from Blue Mountain. We were there for our annual retreat. We go in the beginning of the summer and toward the ends of the summer. So we'll be back there. I don't know the exact dates, but I think it's the last week of July. There still is availability if you'd like to join us. It is one of the most inexpensive, beautiful vacations you can give your family. Blue Mountain Christian Retreat Center, nestled in the Poconos. It is in Tamaqua, Pennsylvania. And beautiful, fresh, clean air, hiking trails through the woods, a beautiful pool, games for the kids, all kinds of activities for the kids. And then we get together every evening for wonderful Bible study and worship and prayer. It is fantastic. My family has grown up at Blue Mountain. My kids have been there every summer. They love it. They do the slip and slide and all kinds of things. So we've got just a full summer of programming available for the Eagles Wings family, but it is our partners who keep this moving forward. And my point was, I just saw so many of our partners last week at Blue Mountain. Would you consider becoming a partner? If you're not yet a partner, a monthly commitment of $18, which is 63 cents a day. It is just an army of partners that keep us moving forward, and you can make a difference in that. There's our Friends of Israel, Key of David, Watchmen on the Wall, and stakeholders. Those are the different levels of partnership, and there's all kinds of different thank you gifts and special invitations that you get at those various levels. So go to the website, eagleswings.org, check it out, become a partner today. Finally, just before we go to our rabbi, who, by the way, is joining us from Israel. He's joining us from Israel. We can't wait to see him in a moment. But we want to invite you to East Coast Conference. It is coming up in just I think a week or two, July 8th through 11th here in Buffalo, New York. Buffalo, the Miami of the North. Buffalo is a fantastic place to live. We really have got to turn around the reputation of this city. Buffalo is a delightful place to live. And I love it here. The only place I'd rather live more than Buffalo is, you already know the answer to that, so I'm not even going to say it. But join us in Buffalo, July 8 to 11. Pastor Craig Pridgeon, Jose Diaz, Resting Place will be with us. Josh Lively will be there leading worship. I'm forgetting someone. And Dale Mast, Prophet Dale Mast is going to be with us. How could I forget? It's going to be an amazing, amazing time. So make plans to be with us throughout the summer for all of the programming that Eagles Wings is offering you this summer. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear, dear friend from Israel, Rabbi Solomon, I'm telling you, this man has so much energy. He has so much zeal and energy and appetite to do good in the world, to think, to process, to work, to explore. And I met him a few years ago, and I can honestly say he was one of the people, the first time I met him, sitting in conversation with him, I said, I want to be this man's friend. This is a person who loves God, loves the Word of God, loves history, loves the people of Israel, and has opened his arms in friendship to the Christian community. He has embraced the Christian community. In particular, he's embraced Eagles Wings, and we're so grateful for that. He is so many things. He is an expert on some of you have heard of the project of sifting the soil that is dug from underneath the Temple Mount sifting project. That is one of his areas of expertise. Ir David is one of his areas of expertise. He's got a fascinating family. I've got to get an update on how many grandkids he has. He's an incredible, incredible brother. Welcome back, because it's his second time with us to the program, all the way from Israel. Welcome back, Rabbi Sam Solomon. Rabbi, how are you, sir? We've got you unmuted and ready to go. Welcome.
Thank you, and greetings from Jerusalem, and happy Father's Day, Bishop.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And listen,
everyone who's listening. Yes.
Well, and how many children and how many grandchildren do you have?
Well, we have two children, but they've been highly productive, so each have 7 kids. So we have 14, thank God. It's a great blessing. We have 14 grandchildren at this point, from the ages of like 3 to 18.
14 grandchildren.
Yeah.
So you went from a relatively normal size or even smaller size family of the two to now you just have the family over for dinner, and it's a whole production.
And it's a basketball team because it's exactly 10 boys and a cheerleading squad of 4 girls.
Oh, that's fantastic!
It's a full team, and they're very, very special. Very special. They live in Jerusalem. They live almost 10 minutes from us. No more than
but Rabbi, you started out. Now, forgive me. I'm trying to remember if it was New Jersey or Philadelphia that you started out in.
in terms of being growing up, or in terms of where I lived.
Your ministry, because you were a
Well,
pulpit rabbi for a
I was a
season.
pulpit rabbi in Jersey City, New Jersey. And my ordination is from Yeshiva University, which is in New York City. And I lived most of my life, I lived around the Northeast, but I also lived in Japan for a couple of years because my father was the chaplain of the United States Air Force, the Jewish chaplain, and administered to all religions, all faiths. And actually, the openness of his, now deceased many years, but his openness of his heart to people of faith was very important. Besides being an Orthodox rabbi, he was a New Testament scholar. He had
Wow.
a doctor in Christian theology. And I only realized now at the ripe age of 67 that he had a profound effect on me in terms of opening my heart to our Christian friends who I feel an enormous affinity to. And not only that, I learned things from. For example, spontaneous prayer, which is not exactly a Jewish thing, but it's a very Christian thing. And it really helps, I think about prayer differently since I've been with my evangelical friends. So it's pretty amazing.
Rabbi, tell us, what was it like? You're in Jersey City, you're in the Northeast, you've graduated from the prestigious Yeshiva University, and at some point you have this decision to make Aliyah, to return to the land of your forefathers and foremothers, which is beautiful and sounds poetic and sounds, spiritually lofty. But wow, I mean, America's nice, and leaving behind all of the trappings and blessings and comforts of American life. What was that process like for you, making that decision and going back and making Aliyah to Israel?
It's a great question, because usually there's not one factor. Usually there are a number of factors involved, and obviously connected. Look, Judaism is unique in that it's not just a religion, it's also peoplehood. And right. So Jews feel that unique connection to other Jews because of their people connection. And so from the first time I stepped foot in Israel at the age of, 16, and so that's quite a while ago. And when I right away felt that I was home. And then it took many years. My parents insisted I come back. But from that moment to the age of 16, I almost had what you would call an out-of-body experience, where I just knew I belonged here. And I made sure that the woman that I married, my beautiful wife, Meryl, that she also had that very strong connection to Israel. And actually, we encouraged our children to make Aliyah before us. So we made it a lot easier. A lot of people have a hard time because they already have their extended family, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren in America. But in our case, we encouraged them when they were single to make Aliyah, and they built their families in Israel. So all our children are Sabras, are native-born Israeli. So that was I'm incredibly grateful to America. America has saved our family from the Holocaust. And America has provided types of freedoms, Bishop, that are remarkable. There's a unique connection between America and Israel. We share so many similar values, and those values are what really bring together, especially the evangelical Christian community with the Jewish community in Israel, in a way that's profound and unique, and brings a lot of blessing on both communities. But that was really what did it. It also helped that I sold my company, so I didn't have the type of economic stress. I came here, there's an old joke. I don't know. There's an old saw in Israel. They say, "How do you make $1 million in Israel? Come with 3." But anyway, but that's a joke. But seriously, right. I came from a high tech background, and Israel is at the core of high tech. So right. There were a lot of Israel. Very much is a first world country. It wasn't right. That I didn't really go down in terms of my economic. I gave up certain things that are very nice in America, including my mother and my brothers. They're all there still. But we need Jews in America, and we need Jews in Israel. We need friends in America. We need them in Europe. I'm very involved in dealing with anti-Semitism in Western Europe now. I've built an organization with 200,000 activists dealing with anti-Semitism and anti-Israel delegitimization in Western Europe. And Western Europe is the canary in the coal mine for what ultimately happens in the United States. And so I'm trying what I can to really bring new ways, new ideas of connecting Israel and bringing our communities together. But America is very, very unique, and it's so important for us to preserve our special, unique bond. And Eagles Wings, and I just want to do a shout out to Eagles Wings for a moment. Eagles Wings is that remarkable organization that, out of a purity of spirit and connection to God and our mutual faith in God, that has really become an amazing organization for support of Israel. And I've been a supporter of the organization, and I encourage all your friends and associates to support Eagles Wings. I also, one last thing I have to mention, I noticed you have the 3 patron levels. I don't know if you want to put that back up there to type of patron, but the numbers are actually really important, and I give you a lot of credit, Bishop. It's $18, $36, and $72. And I don't know if people realize. Do you mind if I just spend a moment on that?
Go. You're teaching us already. Go right ahead.
So those are multiple of anything with multiple of 18 is considered to be bring mazel, bring
blessing, to bring blessing.
Blessing. That's what favor. Blessing, because that's going to be my topic tonight. Bring favor, right, to you. And 18, because numbers and words, every letter in the Hebrew alphabet is also a number. It's called gematria. And when you add up numbers in certain ways, it means certain things, and they can be. It's fascinating, actually. It's part of the Kabbalah mysticism of Judaism. 18 is actually spelled out Chai, Chet Yud. Chet Yud, Chet is 8, Yud is 10, Chai is 18, means life. So when you give 18, you're bringing life. When you give 36, you're giving twice life. And then 72. So it is very common for, like, if you go to a Jewish event, a Jewish affair, like a bar mitzvah or a wedding, that you give a multiple of Chai. And you can get pretty high. I've given 720,
right.
Various levels. So I think it's really special that the way you support and make a difference as a partner of the organization is by bringing life into the organization. Into that
Beautiful.
So God bless you for that. God bless you.
No, thank you, Rabbi, and I just love hearing your story. And you've reflected a lot in the past couple of moments about the very unique bond between Israel and America, and you've talked about our shared values, but those values really come from this book. I mean, that is the cornerstone of why there is such absolute amity and resonance between Israel and America, because we are part of this thing called the Judeo-Christian worldview, which is based on this text, which now, amazingly, for the first time in 2,000 years, we are studying together. This is extraordinary. This is mind-blowing. And not only are we studying it together, right? But number one, we can study it together in the land of Israel. This is incredible that you can go, and Jews and Christians, our tour guides are always Israelis, and you've come and lectured our groups, and you're sitting there, Jews and Christians learning the Bible together. But it's also incredible that we can do it right like this, in this, right over Zoom. And this is the world that we're living in, that we have so much that is accessible to us. And so we're going to study this tonight. As if people want to get ready, we're going to turn in a moment to Numbers chapter 22. Numbers chapter 22. We're coming to a very special parsha tonight. But Rabbi, just before we jump in there, and I don't want to open Pandora's box here, but there's just been an election in Israel. And, for all of us in the West, we just shake our heads, because Israeli politics is really confusing to an American mind that is accustomed to just a two-party system and a 4-year cycle. And of course, the election that you just went through was, I think, your 4th election in 2 years, because you couldn't get a government formed. And now finally a government has formed. For the first time in 12 years, Benjamin Netanyahu is not the prime minister. Naftali Bennett is the prime minister, but confusingly, he did not win the most seats. The most seats was won by Yair Lapid, who we understand was center left. Bennett is far right, so he's even right of Netanyahu. And yet you also have, for the first time, an Arab party with Mansour Abbas filling the seat of deputy prime minister. I mean, this is just, my goodness, my goodness. So I'm not asking you to editorialize. I'm not asking you to get political, but I am asking you, to the best of your ability, help us make sense of this shift within Israeli government, and what does it mean for Israel for the immediate future?
Well, what it means for Israel in the immediate future, I have no idea. I am there. They say, there are no prophets left in Israel today? So I know about that. However, basically, just to explain the difference in the system. So we're based on a parliamentary system that puts together coalitions. What does that really mean? That means you don't vote directly for the prime minister. Here in the United States, I vote in the US still, you vote directly for your president, okay?
Right.
Who's part of that party. In Israel, you don't vote for the prime minister. You vote for a party. And the leader of that party, if he or she can put together a coalition, I'll explain that in a moment, then they now become the prime minister. So how do you put together a coalition? There are 120 seats in the Knesset, which is our parliament. We have a single unicameral government. We have a parliament. It has 120 seats. Do you know why Bishop has 120?
I'm guessing 10 per tribe?
No, actually because of the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin had 120 seats in it. There's I have to say, one of the amazing things that and the people who come to visit when you have your trip here, hopefully we'll have a chance to talk to there's so many interesting ways the Bible gets into even modern things today, besides the Hebrew language we got revitalized. But one example of it is the Knesset is the same, is based on the number of the Sanhedrin, which were the elders who sat in judgment and promulgated the laws for Israel during the temple. So they use 120. So in order for you to carry a government, you have to have 61 votes or 61 seats. Okay? And so therefore you need to put together a coalition with 61. In theory, Bibi, who has usually gotten between 30 and 38 seats, he should have been able to take the other parts of the right coalition of right-wing parties and combine that together to more than 61. And in fact, if you add up all the parties and all the votes, Israel is quite conservative and right-wing. It's over 70 parliamentary seats are for, I would call, the right, for the conservative. So why couldn't Bibi put it together? And the bottom line is, let's call it Bibi fatigue. After 12 years and lots of complicated issues with Bibi, even though, look, he's an amazing Israeli hero, but he's also got flaws, just like every great leader, right? We learn about that in the Bible. We learn it all the time, my friends. You learn about people with great capabilities. King David, right? Great capabilities, but he also wanted Bathsheba. He wanted Bathsheba, and she sent the husband out. And Natan, the prophet, came and said, "Hey, what did you just do? That was inappropriate for you to send away the husband to war, knowing he was going to die. Send him into the front." Trying to adjust my yarmulke while I'm looking at the camera. It's actually weird. Why did you do that? Okay, so we know that leaders have flaws. Some leaders had very serious flaws. King Solomon, towards the end of his life, married all these idol-worshiping wives in order to, because back then you married women in order to create alliances with other countries. So you married the daughters of other kings, and they started doing idol worship in Jerusalem, and he was judged and condemned for it. So Bibi has flaws. What he did for COVID was unbelievable. What he's done for self-defense in this country and for our security, unbelievable. What he's done in Iran is unbelievable. But there's fatigue. So actually, the coalition that was formed was not a coalition of people that really like each other. They don't. What they do is they have one thing in common. They hate Bibi. So there were a number of right-wing parties that on principle would not join Bibi in a government. Avigdor Lieberman, Gideon Sa'ar were the two. Naftali Bennett would have, but without those other two parties, he could not put together his 61. He's given, I think it's like 4 weeks to put it together. If he can't, then the next one can do it, and that was then Yair Lapid, but he only had like 16 seats, while Bibi got like 31. It's absurd. But by working with Bennett, they put this together. Now they are all strange bedfellows. We have all the way from a Muslim Brotherhood Islamic party to on the left to Naftali Bennett, as you said, on the right.
Now I want to interrupt you for a moment, because one of the silver linings that I'm seeing out of this crazy patchwork quilt that is the new government is I don't know how it is going to be possible for Israel's enemies ever again to accuse Israel of being an apartheid state when the deputy prime minister of Israel is an Arab from the Arab Muslim party. How are you possibly going to use the word apartheid to apply to the state of Israel anymore in the future? It shouldn't have been applied in the past, but now, I mean, there you go.
So it's actually so for people that are anti-Semitic. Look, being anti-Israel in the end is, if you single out Israel as the only country that is for criticism, that's basically a form of anti-Semitism. And anti-Semites don't need facts to convince them. In fact, facts have nothing to do with the situation. Don't confuse them.
Sadly, that's true. That's right.
And the apartheid judgment was recently put together by I forget the name of the Human Rights Watch. Human Rights Watch. And if you read their study, it's bogus. So yeah, you're absolutely correct. But you don't even that. I drove last night from the Shomron, from the south. I was right by Hebron, okay? And I drove back, and I was on a road. I'm sure people hear, oh, the roads are separated. You can't, Jews and Arabs. It's completely not true. Every other license plate was a Palestinian license plate, Israeli license plate. In fact, the only place that is apartheid is where Jews can't go into Palestinian towns because we'll get lynched. So there's big red signs that say no Jews allowed. It's unbelievable. The Palestinian Authority wants to form a country where no Jews are allowed in their country. Total racism. But anyway, you're correct though, Bishop. It doesn't make any sense, and it's an amazing with women and with Muslims and Christians. We have a very broad party. I actually think the government could in principle work, but I got to tell you, Israeli politics has its own gestalt. And but I'll tell you, the one area where they will all agree is Israel's security. And so our enemies right now think that we're weaker, and it's actually not true. In fact, the government, when it was a labor government, which was left wing, was just as focused on Israel's security as a right wing government.
Well, Rabbi, speaking of gestalt, we're gonna go to our parsha here tonight. Numbers chapter 22, everybody. The very interesting story of Balak, the king of Moab, and the prophet Balaam. And we're going to work through this. This is the story of the talking donkey, ladies and gentlemen. And we're gonna learn about this tonight. Rabbi, take us through the points of this very unusual story. God can use anything, even a talking donkey.
Absolutely. I actually want to focus, though, at Bishop, very quickly on a critical element that my Christian friends always talk about. Those who bless Israel will be blessed. Those who curse Israel will be cursed. That is actually a critical aspect of this week's Parsha. We'll talk about that because this is a Parsha about bracha, about blessing. So that's, but let's just start with just the key points. So Balak was the king of Midian, and he was scared because he saw that the Jews who were now left Egypt. They were encamped not even in his land, but next to his land, because they had just had a fight with the Edomites. And he decided that the way to deal with the Jews, rather than just giving them some water and letting them pass through, because that's all the Jews asked for. They said, the Hebrews said, let us just pass through your land. Let's get to the other side, because we don't want to be here in Moab, but we want to be in Israel. But he was a classic, actually, anti-Semite. And I can show you, because he has all the elements. And I don't, by the way, find anti-Semites everywhere. I just put that out. But this is actually amazing historically. And I only realized it tonight. And I'll show it to you in a moment. But what he did is he basically needed a gun for hire. He needed a prophet that believed in God, but at the same time was a little bit almost like the Satan. He was a gun for hire to be able to curse people. He was also partially a magician, and so his name was Bilam. And so Balak said, boy, I better deal with these Jews that are coming through. He tries to hire Bilam. Bilam tells the representatives of Balak, the king, listen, I need to talk to God. I just can't go and curse. I know something about these Jews. I think I better check with God first, because it was he was a monotheist, and he basically has the people stay there. God tells them, don't go with them.
We're around verse 10, everybody, about verse 10 of chapter 22. And I got to tell you that, this stuff is right out of Lord of the Rings. You've got Balak and Balaam. It's right.
God. You can't. Oh, it's great. It's great. Right. So he says, I can't do this. You can't curse them. Only God can bless and curse. And so just throw them out. So he tells them to go, as they say, go pound sand. So Balak is not going to take no for an answer. He sends even more greater people. Okay. And what verse is that? Because I'm just telling you the story without actually doing it.
Yeah, verse 15. Verse 15, Balak sends back messengers and says, listen, don't let anything stop you from coming. I'll reward you handsomely. I'll do whatever you say.
You got it. And he says, this is great. By the way, I love when you hear this. It's almost like you're there listening in on a phone tap. He says, you could give me a full house of gold and silver. It wouldn't make a difference if God tells me I can't curse him. I mean, that's really great. You can always hear the conversation there, isn't it?
Right.
Bishop? It's like you're listening in on their conversation. So basically, he says, but something, stay overnight, because actually Bilam, according to the rabbinic sources, wanted to curse the Jewish people. And that's going to get to the donkey in a moment. He wanted to curse the Jewish people. So what he did is he turned around and said, stay overnight, and I'll let you know. God tells him, okay, you can go with them. Okay, but you listen, you only say what I want you to say. You are going to be my messenger, he says to Bilam. You're my messenger, you're my prophet. You cannot say anything on your own. Now, Bilam, by the way, the next morning, if you look at the text very carefully, in text 21, verse 21, it says, Bilam arose in the morning, saddled his donkey, and went with the princes of Moab. You notice something about the language. It doesn't say that Bilam actually went with the princes. It says he actually was excited. He wanted to go because he was hoping he could curse the Jews. So it's called Zerizim Magdimim in Hebrew, which means you the people that want to do something enthusiastically, they get up there first. Like if you want to pray to God, Zerizim Magdimim, you get up early in the morning and you pray. Okay, that's called Zerizim Magdimim. But he was getting up early in the morning to do what? To go curse the Jews.
No, those of us who are part of the Torah Tuesdays class, we remember Mark, our teacher, Mark Gerson, pointed out that exact point, that phrase, Balaam got up in the morning, is indicative. In other words, he got up early with excitement because he really was on a mission, not a mission from God, but his own mission that he wanted to bring a curse to the Jews.
Correct. So now look at 22. Therefore, God was angry. Okay? And now is the donkey story. And I actually have an interesting twist. I looked up a couple of rabbinic sources, did not find it. So this could be on Eagle's Wings, on Bishop and the Rabbi. You've heard it first.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. And what's amazing about Bible study for everyone here that's attending tonight is everyone owns their own interpretation, so to speak, of the Bible. And you should not be afraid to read the verses and look at it and say, wow, this is very unique and meaningful to me in a very specific way. I sometimes read the Bible and I'll come up with an idea and it's really connected to me personally. So this is an example of it. So he goes there. Now it comes with the donkey. The donkey sees verse, where is that, Bishop? 23. So he's in a narrow passageway with the donkey riding it. The donkey sees the angel of God with a sword, okay? And the donkey tries to avoid the angel, but he can't because there's walls on either side. It's like they're in a narrow ravine. So the donkey goes and bangs Bilam's leg, okay? And Bilam now is angry and he hits the donkey. And the donkey, again, he doesn't do anything. So he hits him again. And he hits him 3 times. And finally, the donkey turns to Bilam and says, why are you hitting me? What are you doing to me? But the best part, the donkey says, I've been loyal to you all these years. You've been riding me. Have I ever led you wrong? I mean, that's really great. I love that. Have I ever led you wrong? And Bilam says, I can't go because there's an angel there. And he's got a sword. And you don't see it? And then Bilam's eyes are opened, and he sees the angel with the sword.
Verse 31.
And then the angel says, why are you smiting the donkey? Didn't I tell you that you can only go if you listen to me and say my word? Listen, you can only do what I tell you you're going to do for the children of Israel. You cannot do anything differently. So I want to just give a very quick interpretation to the donkey and Bilam, because it really makes sense. I made a note here. So when he struck the donkey, that's because he did not see the hand of God, right? He didn't see God in front of him. And so therefore what he did is he did what his natural impulse is, which is to smite, to strike, to do something horrible, okay? And it was the same exact thing. It's called a mashal nimshal. It's a comparative story. That's exactly what he was doing with the Jewish people. He did not see the hand of God with the Jewish people. So what was he going to do? He was going to curse the Jewish people. He was going to smite the Jewish people. And so this story is really an allegory. What God was saying is, just like you didn't see me now, when I was standing there with that sword and blocking the donkey, and you thought it was the donkey, that you could strike the donkey as if the donkey was the issue because you're not listening to God, that's exactly what you were doing, what you were going to do to the Jewish people. You were going to strike the Jewish people because you did not see the hand of God blessing the Jewish people. What do you think of that, Bishop? You like it?
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. In other words, he was spiritually blind completely. He couldn't see God's presence and blessing in the micro, in the donkey. He couldn't see the angel in front, nor could he see the big picture. And you know what you draw from that, it's just, maybe it's a leap, but I go to it. It's the fact that the anti-Semitism that we're fighting down the road, at the university here in New York, right? Pick a university, there's anti-Semitism everywhere. That's the same anti-Semitism we're fighting, in Hamas or in Iran or in the United Nations. These are all, spiritual realities are all interconnected for good or for evil. And Balaam could not connect the fact that God was right in front of him. The other thing that I'm thinking, Rabbi, is this: how many times in our lives this donkey, right? This donkey represents his efforts to get somewhere. He's trying to get somewhere. He's just trying to get to where he was going. And God didn't want him to go there, or at least God didn't want him to go there for the purpose that he thought he was going there. And what do? We start flailing around trying to push everything ahead when God's saying, I'm resisting you. I'm trying to slow you down so that you can properly perceive. How many times in our life do we work ourselves into a frenzy trying to make something happen when there's that beautiful verse, I believe it's from Zechariah, Rabbi, that says, it's not by might and it's not by power, but it's by the Spirit of the Lord. If we'll let God take care of things. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, there's
Rabbi,
an
that's a
expression.
beautiful. That is a beautiful interpretation. I love it. I love it. Well, take us home with it, Rabbi. Put the bow
then
on
what
it.
happens is now we're getting to the punchline. So now he finally shows up to ready for cursing of the Jewish, or ready to do whatever he's going to do. Balak comes out now to greet him. Now, by the way, he was the greatest non-Jewish prophet at that time. And actually, blessings, this is fascinating. I read this in the rabbinic literature. According to many rabbis, the greatest blessing of the Jewish people is when it comes from people who are not Jewish. So everyone in eagle's wings who brings a blessing to Jerusalem, brings a blessing to the children of Israel, they are actually at a higher level than anyone else's blessings. Isn't that beautiful? Because we see it from here. Because what Bilam was really was an instrument of God to bless the Jewish people. And he was the greatest non-Jewish prophet at that time. So he shows up there. Balak says to him, okay, let me take you up to a high place. They do some sacrificing. There's a whole formula. You got to have seven altars and sacrificing, whatever. That's not that important. But the bottom line is Bilam gets up there, and guess what he does? God basically puts in the words in his mouth, and he blesses the Jewish people. Oh my God. Balak is having a cow. Okay, where we are, what verse, my friend, now?
We're in chapter 23, verse 7.
Right, verse 7. He says, so he has a cow. So he says, okay, let me take you to another place. Maybe this place you like to choose. Maybe we'll go to another place, and now you can go ahead and you can curse them. So he takes them to another place, and sure enough, not only does he not curse them, he makes a blessing. Listen to this, Bishop and my friends at Eagle's Wings. God bless you all. Let me tell you what. You know that this expression from a non-Jewish prophet is one of the most important verses that we say every morning in our prayers.
Really?
Yes. He gets up there and he sees the Jewish people spread out. And this is what I want to talk about for a moment. And says,
verse 17.
Verse Matovu. Okay, hold on. No, it's even before that. It's Matovu Holecha Yaakov. Okay, so Fim, stand here. Return, sorry. No in here, hold on. I think it's a little further down.
What's it say in English, Rabbi?
Yeah, I'm looking in the English, but I'm actually...
How beautiful are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places?
What verse is that?
24. Chapter 24, verse 5.
24, verse 5. Excellent. Yeah, it was further out. How goodly are your tents, Jacob, your dwellings, Israel. Okay. In Hebrew, this is a beautiful expression. For those who are trying to learn Hebrew, because I know many of your Eagles Wings compatriots are actually trying to also learn a little Hebrew. Matov ha'alecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael. If you open up the daily prayer book, you will see that is the first verse of prayer. The first verse of prayer is actually from a non-Jewish prophet. Now, why is this?
Say it again for us a little more slowly.
Matovu ohalecha Yaakov. How goodly matov ohalecha, your tents, Yaakov, O Jacob, mishkanotecha, your dwelling places, O Israel.
Rabbi, with the tents, say the tents again.
Ohalecha.
Why is it not Sukkot?
So sukkah is a temporary structure.
So a Sukkot is not a tent. It's a little different.
Yeah, it's a temporary structure with reeds on top.
Okay.
And that's a sukkah. And ohel, it's a great question, actually. I never thought of it. But an ohel is an actual tent. I'm actually going to give you another inventive interpretation of mine, which again, maybe it's somewhere out there. And if one of your Eagles Wings friends want to figure it out, but why is it talk about both ohalecha, tents, and mishkanotecha, dwelling places? It seems this is common, what they call exegesis, how you learn the biblical verses by looking at where things are extra, and then you ask yourself the question, why is it extra? And that is a common way. In other words, couldn't the Bible been short? Remember, the Bible is terse. God does not waste words. So every word has meaning. So could have been enough. Ma tova lecha Yaakov. How good were your tents, O Jacob? That's already a blessing. Why did it have to add Mishkanotechi? What extra thing did it add to it that God and the Word of God had to add those extra two words? Okay, so it is very common in biblical exegesis to always ask yourself, could the Bible have been shorter? That sentence, that pasuk, that verse, and if it's not shorter, why is it not shorter? Okay, so my interpretation here is, you notice first of all it's using Yaakov, and it's then using Yisrael. So it has two different names for the people of Israel, because the people of Israel are all descended from Jacob, Yaakov, and then later on, Yaakov's name was changed to what? Bishop was changed to Israel. Of
course,
right?
Israel. Yep.
Right. So interesting. So Ma tova lecha Yaakov. My interpretation of this is, and I'll bet you I will ultimately find a rabbi that says it sometime probably 500 years ago, but I haven't found it yet. It's talking about how blessing the Jewish people outside of Israel, Matov Ohalecha, because those are temporary dwellings. And Yaakov, remember, he was Jacob before he crossed the river to go into Israel.
Wow, that is so good.
Isn't that good?
That's fantastic.
Are permanent dwellings once you're in Israel. So he was
Come on,
the Jewish people. I get it.
Oh, I love it, Rabbi.
Isn't that great?
So we're blessed on the journey, and we're blessed at the destination.
Yeah, sure.
I'll tell you. You know what we'll say, Rabbi? We'll say that'll preach. That's what we would say in our that'll preach. We are blessed on the spiritual journey in the midst of the temporary, in the midst of the transitory, in the midst of the confusion that comes with the journey. But then we're also blessed when we reach that moment of destination. And we have moments in this life that are moments of destination. You know, I just had the beautiful privilege of having the B'nai Mitzvah for my two sons, Michael and Daniel. And that's a destination. You know, it was a moment you come to, and wow, you know, you're there, and you know, it was so interesting, Rabbi, because of course it was in an Orthodox synagogue, the Hampton Synagogue, an Orthodox service. And so of course there was no video recording. There was no recording of any kind. And a part of me felt so badly for that. A part of me felt, oh, you know, why can't we capture this memory? But another part of me thought, I love that there's no recording of it, because I had to be more fully present for it. I wanted to capture, I wanted every moment of it to be etched on my heart. I wanted every moment of it to be just, you know, so real in my, and so I wanted to experience it fully. So because there wasn't going to be an artificial, you know, recording of it. So we have heard tonight the Rabbi Solomon of Jersey City. Rabbi Solomon of Jersey City has told us that we are blessed in the temporary as we're journeying. That's Jacob. We go through a transformational process on the journey. We wrestle with God. We wrestle with ourselves. We wrestle with the Word of God. We wrestle with life circumstances. And we come out transformed. We come out different people. The Rabbi Solomon who lives in Jerusalem is not the Rabbi Solomon who lived in Jersey City. Making Aliyah has transformed him. Having 14 grandchildren has transformed him. Fighting anti-Semitism in Western Europe has transformed him. And you, beloved Eagles Wings partner, when you join me in studying the Word of God with our beloved Jewish brothers and sisters, and especially in the land of Israel, when you send in your gifts for Abraham's bread to help feed hungry people in Jerusalem, you are joining a spiritual journey, a spiritual tribe. We are saying, as Ruth said to Naomi, your people shall be our people, and your God is our God. We worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Rabbi, this has been rich. This has been amazing. We could go on forever, but our time is coming to a close.
Really is it almost done?
It is. I'm going to give you the last word.
Year, then, huh?
I know we'll get you back sooner than a year. First of all, we hope to see you in a few months there in Israel. But we'll come back to you for a last a wrap up couple sentences and then I'll release us with a blessing. But folks, hit the share button if you've not yet done that. Hit the share button, share. Go to eagleswings.org. If you've never given a gift, make a one-time gift tonight. Can you do that for us? We need your help. We need you to stand with us. If you've made a gift in the past, become a partner. Start out at the $18 or $36 a month level. And just say, I'm standing with this ministry. I'm praying for you. We are on the tip of the spear of this global move of standing with Israel and the Jewish people. And I have to say this in light of recent events, standing with Israel, not based on a particular theological construct, not based on a particular political outcome. Sadly, some of our co-Christian supporters of Israel have recently released some letters and made some poor statements that have been extremely detrimental. Folks, friends are not friends if there's conditions on the friendship. In fact, I would argue the exact opposite. I would argue your truest friends are there for you on your good days and your bad days. And just because certain people within the Christian Zionist world didn't like the political outcome of the Israeli election, they chose to release some horrible letters attacking Israel. Well, folks, you can't go around the world defending Israel as a bastion of democracy, and then when the democratic process doesn't go the way you like, throw a hissy fit. You can't do that. And so we stand as Eagles Wings in unconditional friendship with Israel, with the Jewish people. Not because they fit some theological puzzle piece for us, not because they fit some apocalyptic end time scenario, but because we would not have this book if it was not for Rabbi Solomon's relatives. His relatives are the people of this book. They are his mishpacha, his family. And we are learning from his family, and tonight learning from him. And Rabbi, we are so grateful. You have the last word, sir.
So I just want to mention the last thing. This entire parsha is really about what's a blessing. So I can't go through the whole thing, but basically the core, when it says Ma tov alecha Yaakov, he looks and sees the Jewish people. He sees the Mishkot Yisrael. He also, it says what he actually saw were the Jews sitting as tribes. In other words, separate but together, different tribes but together. The key for this blessing only comes out of unity. Unity. And that is the Jewish people's responsibility, by the way. That's not our Christian friends' responsibility. That's our responsibility. But when you do the blessing, the word blessing, bracha, comes from the word berech. It has two sources. It comes from the word berech, which means your knee. That when you instill blessing, you also bring subservience to God with your blessing. But it has one other meaning. It comes from the word brecha, which is a well. That once there is blessings that occur, it's infinite. Blessings become infinite because they come from the wellspring, like the wellspring of as water comes up through a wellspring. So it's fascinating about the word bracha, both meaning to subjugate oneself to God's will, but it also creates an infinite. Because it all comes out of gratitude. Bracha, blessings. And so I want to express my gratitude to my I don't want to say non-Jewish. It's not that you're non-Jewish. My beautiful Christian friends who love, and I love you guys unconditionally, and I appreciate the way you love us unconditionally, because I know all about that process. It really was very hurtful what he wrote, and there was a lot of things going on among my Christian friends about it. And I want to thank everyone here at Eagles Wings for your support of Eagles Wings as a patron, but more importantly, as support of the organization. And I hope I'll see you in Jerusalem. Not next year in Jerusalem, this year in Jerusalem.
This year, absolutely. Bizrat Hashem. We will see you very, very, very soon. And this time we want to meet at least a few of those 14 grandkids. You got to bring a couple of them. You got to bring a couple of them along. Rabbi,
I'll bring my grandson to play guitar. He's now a big Hasidic guitarist. I'm sure he would be able to play guitar.
We would love that, for real. We've got to work. By the way, we pushed your son's clothing line there for a little
right.
bit.
Shtetl last
Is
year,
that
right.
still is that still going?
Yeah. But I didn't want to make it about Shtetl this year. So
No, but people should go. Is shtetl.com?
SHTETTL. That's an extra T in it. SHTETTL.com.
They've got some great, very hip clothing
with spiritual messages, very spiritual messages. I think our Christian friends would be as comfortable and enjoy wearing it as my Jewish friends. And the whole idea is to clothe yourself in light, and clothe yourself in
beautiful
awe and light.
Rabbi, it has been a delight to our soul to spend this time with you. Thank you so much.
I thank God. Look, we're through COVID at this point, and I also have to tell you, you don't have to have the shot yet to come into the country, but you have to take tests before and afterwards. And as long as the tests come back negative, you usually have to be in isolation for like 2 or 3 days. We'll see what happens with the variants, but right now you don't have to have a shot to come to Israel.
Really?
Okay. A few days wait. So I just want you to know.
All right.
We'll track that very closely, and I'll let you know.
Please do. All right. Everyone, thank you for tuning in tonight, and thank you for being a part of this incredible journey. Thank you, Rabbi, for being with us from Israel. And everybody, remember, keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem. God bless.